Hi guys. Hi Arctic Fox. Hi Gerry. How are you all keeping? You can hear me okay, I think, can you? You can, I can see. I just have to finishing up putting some things in. Oh guys, did you see you did. I think you were talking about as well, Arctic. We had the Monkey's Law, the ceremonial signing happening on Wednesday. So that's brilliant. Like that is literally going to save some lives. But I want to go through what's your own thoughts in the Maddie thing first? Have you strong opinions either way or kind of in between? Where's my banner? I want to go through some of the evidence against them. I might actually change. Do you know what I will? And then I want to look at just something that still bothers me a lot about it. So I'm going to change this to evidence. Evidence against. No. Oh, I might actually pin my... because people will be asking me for that. So I'm just changing the title there. I think people might be a small bit surprised at some of the stuff that's there on them. Yeah, did you always think that, Gerry, or? To be honest, I went in 15 years, but yeah, but sure, this is the fourth one. There was a small bit of, I seen media picked it up a small bit wrong, especially over in the States. Like we already had Raoul, what's his name? What? The English guy that was living close by, and both parents were also named Arguido at one stage. So this is actually the fourth suspect. But I suppose I didn't realize actually, guys, how many of you in the States were actually following this. I didn't think that it. I knew it went big, but sometimes when things go big, and sometimes when things go big in the UK, they just assume it's kind of all over the world. But even looking at some of the news articles there last night, there seemed to be from all over the place. Hi, Moonlight. But like at the very, very kind of start, I like everyone. I think people do maybe read into the body language thing a small bit just because there's so much interviews. And Kate kind of got a small bit cold in between trying to protect herself, and people are kind of looking at the cold version and thinking something's up. But at the very start, I thought she was abducted, and then things came out. And one thing in particular that I'm just really have always struggled to get over, and with the dogs, basically. But then when the evidence came out, the DNA results, they came back from the dogs, you realise, hey, there's not much there. What are we going to do if there's nothing there? Do you just stop? Do you move on? But their behaviour since has just pulled me back from that. Just relentless, trying to find her, but I'm somewhere in between. I struggle to get over one or two things, but I'd love if someone could take him down. If someone could say, right, this is why that happened. This is why the dog alerted there. But I want to have a look at Christian first. I just did up a little. I'll share this with you now as well. Yeah, it's looking the Portuguese messed this up completely at the start, completely, and a bit to the middle. They seem to be okay now, but even that lead detective writing that book was disgrace. You can see, is it the Netflix doc where they show footage of them at the roadblock 2 days later, and they all go into the car because it's slashing rain? I think there was huge mistakes from them. I think it was a couple of days after, but I to be honest, I don't blame them for that. It was, what was it, 3-4 months? They were there, they wanted to get the kids back. I actually was in there. My sister got married in that church shortly afterwards. They were home at the time. Or not home, I think they went on their kind of tour off to the Pope and all that kind of stuff. But even in the Netflix doc or some other documentaries, it comes across like the real locals were kind of supporting them and never kind of wavered. But when I was over there, I was asking kind of everyone I could. And everyone was on the side of the parents did it. But the people that I will be dealing with over there are people involved in the tourist industry, so they were worried about people not coming, not thinking it's safe, so that would be probably skewed a small bit, but it was literally 100%, because I can remember being like, surely there's one. And again, at the time, they probably didn't have the full results back from the DNA. Portuguese police were saying that they have Maddie's blood in the apartment when they didn't. But they stink. They stink. There's another case over there where they're missing child. I think they sold her. Was that in the Netflix one? I think it was, yeah. I can't remember the girl's name now, but not far from where it was, and they took her mother in and her uncle in. They absolutely battered her mother. There's photographs of her destroyed. And then they convicted the two of them. And like, it was investigative journalists got the fridge that they said they put the body into, and it couldn't fit. They're just like, it literally doesn't fit going off the height of the girl. And it looks like I think he admitted afterwards that he sold her. Do you think so, Truth? What are you going off there? What makes you so sure? I'm going to run through some of the stuff there on him because I'm not too sure people know. And then I want to go through again just some of the dogs, some of the alerts, and if anyone can take that down, if anyone can tell me why the dogs would alert. And it's these aren't. I'll get to them later. Because if I start talking with them now, I won't stop. You just think it because you're watching since, or I'm watching since day one as well. I think a lot of us were like, it blew up fairly hard and fast. But are you just going off your instinct? Just like the thing with this case and other cases, Delphi, is if people get too hung up on one idea, they won't even look at the other stuff because they're just like, keep open minded. Just have, like, don't close yourself off from anything. It's the same in Delphi. People, Klein's not involved. Like, what makes you think that? When they don't look at anything involved in it. He might. I might be the case. He mightn't be involved at all. And the whole thing with Arguido, like they had nothing to lose by naming him Arguido because the statute of limitations is 15 years, and if they didn't name him by then, he's off. He's off the hook. But it doesn't mean that he's arrested or charged with anything. It just means he's a formal suspect. So a few things on him. This convicted pedo was living in a camper van near to the Praia da Luz holiday resort in Portugal when Madeline disappeared in 2007. In 2005, he'd broken into the home of a 72-year-old woman living in Praia da Luz and order. He drove a Jaguar and was noted for keeping a showy lifestyle and always dressing in a shirt and jacket. On the run afterwards, he became a drifter, residing in a camper van with a distinctive VW and a white body and a yellow skirting. This was seen in the area, or something very close to that description. The vehicle, thought to be lent to him, is now critical to the police in building up their case against Madeline's disappearance. It was seen in the area around Praia da Luz at the time she went missing. And if you remember this, so if you're following from the start, like they instantly started looking at German and British paedophiles. I don't know why. I don't know what triggered that. He went under the radar for about 10 years. The first time Brueckner came to the attention of the authorities regarding Madeline's disappearance was in 2017, after he allegedly told a friend, I think he was sitting in a pub on the 10-year anniversary or something like that. Maddie came up on the screen and he said to one of the friends, he was like, I know all about that. But the comment he made freaked your man out. Well, sitting in a bar in Portugal, 10th anniversary. Image flashed up on a TV screen. Brueckner is then alleged to have told a drinking buddy that he knew exactly what happened to Madeline. The tip-off sparked Metropolitan Police interest. Brueckner police finally caught up with him in 2005 for the 2005 rape in 2018, arresting him in Italy for skipping parole and extraditing him to Germany to face trial. In May 2020, when they were digging into him, they found phone records from the night Madeline's disappearance, placed him at the holiday resort of Praia da Luz. Mobile phone records show he received a 30-minute phone call while in the town that lasted from 7:32 to 8:02. Madeline went missing an hour later. The next day, he re-registered the Jaguar under someone else's name. He just thought he moved back to Germany. He was definitely there in 28. And then was convicted of drug offences last year. A German prosecutor, Hans Christian Walter, said investigators had enough evidence to bring a charge against him, but they want to strengthen their position first. He told the Mirror newspaper he was 100% convinced that the British girl was killed by him. Last week, he wrote to the Mail Online saying that he had not been questioned by the German authorities over Madeline's disappearance. It's a quote, I haven't been questioned on any allegations as required by German law, but it is obvious the German authorities and especially the Department of Justice are providing the media with information about me and is likely to make me appear contemptible. This also applies to authorities and the correlation facility which I am currently being held. And I want to talk about Eddie and Keela. Who's sick? I just seen get well soon, Gemma. Oh, grandma. Is it Sherry? Oh, it is. Sherry, make sure to mind yourself. Have a nice cup of tea. Jeez, you're all sick. What's wrong? What's going on? So like, he's not. I'll share this link to you as well. He's not going to be admitting anything anyway. And I remember when they were searching his place. Do you remember that a few months back? They were searching it for 2 days. And it was being live streamed on YouTube. I was watching it just expecting or hoping that they'd find something. There was some things. It looked like there was where he was staying. There was a basement underground that he had filled in. And they were digging that up. There was little things there like kids' bikes and stuff like that, which were a bit creepy. But I know that van is going to be very important. We know as well there was people in the area that day, the day before, that were calling to houses, pretending to... what were they doing? Pretending to collect for some charity, but it looked like they were just sussing out who was in the houses and entrances and all that. There was someone seen leaving the McCann apartment and being very careful about closing. He was so careful about closing the gate, it made him kind of suspicious. But in terms of anyone we've ever had in this case, he looks the strongest, bar the dogs. And I struggle. I honestly struggle to get over some of the signals because they're not dum-dums. They were... I think where's Martin Graham? So I think he's from Yorkshire. And they're known for their police dogs. This request was there by the British to the Portuguese. If you want further assistance, we have these dogs. And we'll send them over. Eddie has, before and after this case, alerted correctly on other cases. There was one where he was alerted into the bedroom, I think, and I think the husband then admitted, yeah, I did kill my wife in there. Bar this case, as far as I know, unless anyone knows differently, he's 100%. He's never given a false positive. He detects human cadaver, only barks on detection, worked with the FBI. Like after this case, because I kept following the kind of dogs and Martin to see what way they would go. It's not as if they went backwards. If anything, like they went on to gain credibility. Martin now is one of the top consultants in the world for this stuff. He hasn't talked about the case. He has... Do I have it? I do. I'll update the description as well, but any links that I'm showing you here as well. You do... It's the Yorkshire Sarah, I think, is it? They're fantastic. He's constantly... He's flown all around the world with these dogs, crime scenes. He hasn't talked about it afterwards because he's like... When he can't, he's been told not to, but his report is there, like. It's the thing with the dogs, isn't it? They don't care what your nationality is, what your skin color is. They don't care. So that's Eddie. He's the cadaver dog, and then there's Keela, and she'd freeze. She wouldn't bark, and she was mainly for blood. And I'm going to show you a little piece on the two of them. I don't know why I kill my music. And I want to talk about trying to take it down as well. We'll talk about that later. I'll just play this first, because this is a really good clip on the two dogs. This is actually on Martin Grime and all the kind of different dogs. It's a really good documentary. I'm only going to play about 5 minutes of it here, because just focus on them part, but I'll put that in the description as well.
As the police send in the dog.
I don't think they come back to that at all through that episode, but I want to show you the parts of the apartment. He said there she found blood. She alerted for blood. They didn't find blood. But we'll have a look. There was lots of things that they... I'll go through everything they alerted on, because they were there for a number of days. They went into the apartment first. A few alerts there. Then they went into the place where the McCanns were staying after that. They alerted on the cuddly toy. I'm not sure whether the cars were next or the clothes. But then they got all the items of clothing. They laid them all out in a room. They brought them in. He alerted on 2 of Kate's clothes, 1 little t-shirt, the car keys. They alerted on, and then they brought, I think it was around 7 different vehicles in, and he didn't alert on anyone except the McCann's driver side door, and Keela alerted in the boot. So there's a lot of alerts there, isn't there? We'll have a look at 5A. I'll try and get a short one here now, because I know it can be they can be very long. Five A. I actually love watching them work. I don't know why this guy is putting his registered trademark on that. This is all over the place now. I'll get this one because that's the rented apartment. If I just search Eddie and Keela 5A, I'll probably get it. 5A. Perfect.
Passavam férias em maio de 2007. O cão percorre todas as divisões, 4 minutos depois de entrar no apartamento, regressa ao quarto do casal McCann.
I'm not going to play the full one because it's so long, but you should check it. I enjoy watching that as well. I love watching the dogs work. But this is... Wait, I might have a map here from one of the... I do. The sun, the old rag. Good map here though. You can see that, can't you? Let's go back. Yeah. So that's apartment 5A, where Madeline went missing from. This is her bed. This is the window where they think the guy went in and the curtain was pulled back. 2 twins were sleeping there. Patio door. And the dog now is in here. He's in Kate and Gerry's room inside here, just over at the wardrobe. Then over here you have the kitchen. You have the blue sofa over there.
E dá o primeiro sinal.
It was probably worth knowing here as well. Like, if they're alerting on the clothes probably would have been in this location as well. So I wonder if these two linked. He doesn't bark for no reason.
And by experience and the training of the dog, what I've first noticed is that as soon as I came in, that the dog's very excited. Would appear to me that as soon as he's come in the house, he's picked up a scent that he recognises, and he's then gone through the apartment trying to.
So Martin said the minute the dog, I think that's in the and obviously guys, he's can read them like books. But the minute the dog got into the apartment, he was on. He switched. He knew something was up. And very strong alerts.
Source where that scent source is coming from. If there isn't a scent source in here, i.e. a physical article where the scent is emitting from, any scent residue will collect in a particular place due to the air movement of the flat, or the apartment. And what I would say in this case is that there's enough scent in that area there for him to give me a bark indication. But is a strong indication, and I would say it's positive for the things that he's trained to find, which will be part of a separate debrief.
Na sala recebe novas instruções, dá novo sinal.
Okay, so now we're going in behind the couch.
When he first came in, he was quite interested in the sofa, but he didn't have access to the back of the sofa. And when he's gone behind the sofa, what I saw was that approximately in the centre of the wall where the window is, just along the tile area, between the tiles and the wall, he's been sent.
Jane, they're the same. They're the exact same dogs. So the dogs I showed you in the first video, these are the same dogs. They were the 2 dogs that were brought over.
In there a lot stronger than he has anywhere else. And then when he's gone out over the second time, he's decided, yes, that's what I'm looking for, and that's when he's given me the bark indication. What we should understand with this dog is that he only barks when he finds something. He won't bark at any other time. He won't bark at other dogs. He won't bark at strangers. He won't bark when somebody knocks on the door or anything like that. So again, I would say that's a positive indication.
Depois é a vez de Keela, uma cadela.
And this is Keela. So they were taken in at separate times. And this is her behind the sofa.
Treinada para identificar.
I wish they got other, just to confirm, or like to call in another few cadaver dogs, just to see.
Vestígios de sangue humano.
The crime scene dog has actually given me what we call a passive indication, where she freezes in this spot here, which would indicate to me that there is some human blood there. She will find blood that's historically very old, and she will find anybody's blood, any human blood, which is important to make sure that everybody knows. The fact that there's Other scientific methods being used may stop you recovering any DNA, but if you try, we'll see what happens. But she is very, very good, and when she indicates, there is always blood there.
Já cá fora, conduzido à zona circundante ao apartamento do Ocean Club, Eddie volta a reagir. Desta vez, o
Eddie also alerted outside just by the floor bed.
ladrar é menos decidido. O treinador
I think
admite
that's where it was.
dúvidas.
We've searched the outer perimeter, and there is some interest here, but it will take some further examination to see what's going on.
Estas são as mais-valias, mas também as limitações dos cães pisteiros.
I think now I can't tell because I don't know what language is in, but I think now they've moved to the McCann's current one, so the apartment that they started renting after that. So they gave them a call in the morning. They were like, "Get out, we're searching your apartment." They got out.
Os animais são usados para conduzir a polícia até aos indícios, mas por si só não fornecem quaisquer provas. A partir do momento em que o cão assinala uma descoberta, cabe ao homem confirmar ou não a existência de provas conclusivas. De regresso às diligências da investigação, a casa ocupada pelos McCann depois do desaparecimento de Maddie foi também alvo de pesquisa canina. Lá dentro, é no armário da sala que se concentra a atenção do animal.
Like, that's strong as well. He knows there's something, like he's getting it. And this is all done over different days. I think it was all maybe within a week. But it's not a case of if these dogs are wrong, they're having a bad day, they're having a bad week. And then they're making no mistakes before it and no mistakes after it. Which is, it's hard to believe unless you can find some way to explain it. And that's Maddie's, that's what he was alerted on, her cuddly toy. You would have seen Kate in a lot of the early interviews as well, just squeezing and holding that.
A mesma reação
They're going through all of it here. It's grand. So then they got clothes off the McCanns, they laid them all out and got the dogs to run through them.
Quando Eddie fareja uma t-shirt de criança, uma blusa e par de calças de Kate McCann.
So a top and a pants belonged to Kate, and then a little kid's top that they're not sure it was one of the twins, or did Maddie have it on? But I do wonder, because the scent is so strong and the dog is so good, if these are stuffed in a bag with that cuddly toy, will they pick up some of it?
A defesa dos McCann justifica, sustenta que Kate, médica de profissão, esteve em contacto com 6 cadáveres antes da partida para férias. As perícias continuam, os animais são levados para um estacionamento subterrâneo. Lá dentro, 10 viaturas, entre elas
I did think, Martin said he had no idea the cars when they brought, I need to check it, but I think it's 7 to 10 vehicles. They took in all the friends that were there, the McCanns. They didn't rent this vehicle till 25 days after she went missing. And this one I don't think that they stashed the body and then went back and moved it. They were being watched like hawks. I think this alert would make more sense if it's some sort of cross-contamination. Like that toy, was that toy in on the floor? Was Kate's clothes in there on the floor?
de Robert Murat e a carrinha Megan.
Robert Murat, his car was there as well. And I think there was some criticism of Martin here that he was very quick with some of the other cars and really focused on the McCann's one, but he says he had no idea whose car was what before he went in. And he's a pro, he's one of the top ones. If you want to see someone mishandle a dog, look at the dogs in the Chris Watts case. There's one dog where he's behind the house. I don't know if anyone knows this or remembers it, but I think Chris threw something into a skip that was a block or two away from him, and the dog is kind of blocked from going across the road, and he alerts about 5-6 times, and the owner's not paying attention and is pulling him away from going across the road. It's so frustrating. And I imagine that owner, that dog, that handler, when they seen that back, they were probably disgusted with themselves as well. But it's a really good example of seeing a kind of a handler, the effect that they can kind of have.
Pelos pais de Madeline, 23 dias depois do seu desaparecimento.
We screen the vehicles using the dog, and the only reaction we've had is to the car in the far corner. I'll tell you which one it is. And what we have is a reaction from the dog over here, where his head's up in the air, and he's sensing the items that he's trained to find. And when we tie him down, he picks this car from this door. The important thing to realise is that he's picking the scent that's coming out through the seal of the door. So, using that information, I don't intend to put the dog inside the car.
Depois de Eddie trabalhar no exterior, é a vez de Keela entrar no automóvel. A partir deste momento, a hipótese de rapto perde consistência. Ganha força a tese de que Maddie havia morrido no apartamento do Ocean Club e de que o seu corpo havia sido depois levado
So Keela alerted in the boot as well. They ripped that out. They found nothing.
da Praia da Luz. O perito inglês responsável pelos
They found
bens sublinha que
partial DNA, that's 50%. That means is completely meaningless. Especially when you have all our siblings and our parents in that car as well.
os animais usados na investigação reagem apenas e só na presença de vestígios que foram treinados para procurar. Os
But
resultados
it's Eddie's alerts for me are just so strong. Like the ones in the apartment, behind the couch. There again on the car and the clothes.
Os testes de ADN, posteriormente desenvolvidos em Inglaterra,
And I think I have one smaller one here that just runs through some of the clothes. It's not a great video. I can't play the sound, but I will just give you a closer look at the clothes and the alerts. Like, do you think, guys, there could be some cross, like, if you're alerting on the clothes and then the clothes are in that wardrobe or the clothes are down the floor there as you're going into bed, or I'm just very surprised that no one was. How can they argue? I think when Gerry and Kay were asked about it, they were like, ask the dogs. They were like, we don't know. Like, maybe they could have given some excuse from their jobs back at home, but they didn't, and nobody has really been able to take these dogs down. But there's literally no other evidence. That's it. They ripped up the sofa, they ripped up the back of the car. There was nothing there. Partial DNA, which is meaningless. So, like, what did they do? Do we just stop? Austin McCann's, we've no other evidence, nothing we can do. Or do they continue to pursue leads? And we know they messed up the start of this. It's just as well social media wasn't where it is now, kind of when this started. I think Facebook was a year old. Twitter was maybe a couple of months. And it has some crazy conspiracy theories as well. Just ridiculous ones, really. Like all big cases do. Gerry, or was it Epstein's cousin was living around the corner? People will get odd now because I said that. Because they're so tied to that idea. Okay, so there's Kate's clothes. That was the 2 items of clothes that the dog alerted on. The red t-shirt. They shouldn't have been saying names. And the cuddly cat. And it's probably this alert. It's this alert on the car for me that makes me just go, whoa, what's going on here with cross contamination and stuff. I'm with the dogs because I find it very hard to believe that what the detective and what the police were insinuating was that Maddie died in an accident. She was maybe given too much. She was given something to help her sleep, maybe a lash of Calpol. I know that was out there. I used to get Calpol when I was younger. Probably shut me up. Is Sarah me? Sarah used to get Calpol. So gave her something to sleep, gave her too much, didn't wake up, accident, stashed the body, I don't know where. And then suddenly, weeks later, they moved the body when the whole world's media is literally stalking them. I'm not saying something didn't happen, but I'm saying this part of it. Like, I wonder, is this some sort of cross-contamination? The clothes are in the car. If the clothes were in contact, like we know they alerted, if they're suddenly thrown on the floor, if that cuddly cat is in this car, which it definitely would have been, the car is locked, the heat, surely that scent on that toy will start to kind of go out there. Now, how did it get in the cuddly cat and the clothes in the apartment is a different story. Jeez. They're a bit off there. Oh, they're talking there about what happened afterwards. That is true as far as I know. And I'll share the reports and all the stuff from Martin there as well. So he never gave a false positive. He reacted 10 times, two separate times on items of Kate's clothing. Nobody was previously reported to have died in the apartment. I'm just going to go off. So can anyone give me an excuse for those dogs alerting? Does anyone have any theories on why they would? Kate washed the cat. She washed the cat before or after? Probably after they were touched. I wouldn't want to wash it after. Like, I got items of just during this week. I got some clothes from someone close to me who passed, and the first thing I did was smell them because I wanted to get that person's smell. Oh my God, Sarah, you're gonna come home with a greyhound. I'm not sure about any of. Oh, you're talking about Desmond? I would just I'd love someone to take down the dogs because I'm willing. Like there's a lot there on. Where is he? Where's he gone? Like we know they were looking into British and Germans from the very, very start. We know there was people around the area. We know there's people calling, pretending for charity. One woman reports that one of these guys called and was looking over her shoulder at her daughter. And next thing she came downstairs the next day and he was in the house, like literally about to snatch her. The area is dodgy. It is, even though they try to hide it. Like I know from even being over there shortly after I went, like people were like, "Oh, the parents definitely did that," but yeah, be careful because people are breaking into apartments. You're like, which one is it? Both, maybe. The next day after she goes missing, he re-registers one of the cars in an acquaintance's name. And I'd love to know more about that conversation because that was the first time he went under. He went completely. They looked at all the German pedos in the area. He's convicted of this. No. But he went completely under the radar 10 years before they even knew he was there. I'd love to know what he said exactly here. He's just a complete scumbag as well. And the phone records. This is all. Like if they have other stuff we don't know, the Portuguese will tell you absolutely nothing, except in the Madeline McCann case when they were leaking false stuff left, right, and centre. But we did get that. The phone records showed that he was in Brueckner that night. Made a 30-minute phone call from 7:30 to 8:02. The next day, he's re-registering a car. And this German prosecutor, Hans Christian Walter, said investigators have enough evidence to bring a charge against him. And that has to be strong. Because I know it's different in Portugal, but like imagine there now this goes to trial, this goes to court. What's the first thing the defence is going to do? It's just going to point a finger at the McCanns. So the evidence would have to be strong enough to dispel that. Like what could they possibly have? Unless it's something incredibly strong, like a piece of clothing or something from Maddie. But why does Hans Christian believe that? He's 100% convinced that Madeline McCann was killed by him. I think there's more than one mast. Jakey and Pride of Luge definitely. It wouldn't be just 22 miles. And they'd be able to narrow that down with some triangulation as well. But it seems people are a small bit, that's what I find. People don't want to know this information because they're like, no, it was McCann's. Don't want to know about it. But like you have to look into everything. Like there's nothing there. The only thing on McCann's is Eddie barking. No evidence, no DNA, no blood, nothing other than that. They were Arguidos. That was dropped. That's never going to come back. To me, I know a lot of people feel differently, but to me, the behaviour, say the last 10 years, doesn't scream of people who are trying to hide something. Like I know people go at Gerry, but like the first time I saw him as well, I was like, whoa, he's a bit cold here and calculated. But then when you see his character, you're like, here, he's a brain surgeon. You know, he's going to be very analytical with this stuff, and he always has a message and a point. He goes into these, no, what do I want to get out of this? I want them to know this map. I want them to know this kind of area. And if you want to see, let's see, can I find that? It was one of the most genuine I seen. Gerry was. Yeah, I have her. And think about this now. You're off to be named. You're off to be named the Guidos or suspects in the disappearance of your own daughter. You go on this family holiday. You're over there for 3 months. You're like, I'm not coming back without my daughter. And eventually, you have to. Imagine that feeling of coming back on the plane without her, stepping down the stairs, the exhaustion. This was a whole panic as well that day because they kind of did it on. They didn't say they were doing it, and all of a sudden, then they're driving to the airport.
Kate, Sean, Emily, and I have returned home as we planned a while ago. We're returning to Britain after very careful thought. We want the twins, as much as is reasonably possible, to live an ordinary life in their home country. We want to consider the events of the last few days, which have been so deeply disturbing. Whilst it's heartbreaking to return to the UK without Madeline, it does not mean we're giving up our search for her.
They tested. They couldn't determine whether the partial DNA was urine, was spit, was blood. There was no blood. Keela alerted, but that doesn't mean there's blood there. Like, they tested it. Go talk to Martin. Go listen to his interviews. He's like, these dogs mean nothing. All they are is an indication. If you can't back it up and go and get evidence after it, they can't go on the stand. There was no blood.
As parents, we cannot give up on our daughter until we know what has happened. We have to keep doing everything that we can to find her. Kate and I wish to thank once again all those who have supported us over the past days, weeks and months. But we would also like to ask for our privacy to be respected now that we have returned home. Our return is with the full agreement of the Portuguese authorities and police. Portuguese law prohibits us from commenting further on the police investigation. Despite there being so much we wish to say, we are unable to do so, except to say this. We have played no part in the disappearance of our lovely daughter, Madeline.
If you have to do this,
I should take that back up. I think people are very. There was no blood. Like, why are you so caught up in it? Do you know what? 2 seconds. Like, you see this in cases all the time. If like, right. I just think if people are following things for a long time, I've changed my mind countless times in cases. It depends on what information you have. But don't be getting stubborn or stroppy if something goes against what you think. Like, how could... Like what do you want? Do you know what? Will I actually write that down? Because I just want to get my thoughts together. Like, what's the plan? So, right. So these people who are like, no, we can't. And I'm one of them. I find it very difficult to go past the dogs. It always brings me back. But people who refuse to go past them, like, what do you want? Do you want people to be convicted because a dog barked? And there's no other evidence. There's no blood. There's no DNA. People are going to be like, there wasn't. Or the forensic team in UK tampered with it because Gerry's connected. Bullshit. So, dogs alert. Samples. Do you know what? That's a good Sarah Mead. Like, one of the main it's a horrible old stat. It's a nasty old stat. But people who lose kids, like missing kids or tragedies, murder, even just illness, a lot of times when they go through something traumatic like that, the parents will kind of split. They haven't here, which goes against. I know you're saying they would have cracked it up, but the fact that they haven't would lead me to believe that it's not. If they know about it, it's not one. It's the two. But it's just it's very hard to get around. Like, where are they going to put her? Like, the dogs alert. So dogs alert. We're after taking everything out of the apartment. We're after taking the clothes. We're after ripping up the carpet in the car. We're after testing these. Like, you couldn't imagine. We can't find anything. There's no evidence other than a few barks. And I like the dogs. I trust the dogs. I find it difficult to get over it. But what are you meant to do? Just shut down the case and not look into other... You're like, oh, sure, look, we won't even bother. We won't even bother looking into this creep who was in the area at the time. Because a dog barked. So we're not going to look into a paedophile who was hanging around the area who registered a car the next day and changed names. I think it was acquaintance. I think he registered in one of his friends' name. We know they were looking for a van like this. We know they were looking into Germans. He's sitting in a bar. He's practically admitting it to his drinking buddy. Or he's admitting he knows something. He was in the area that night. He's making phone calls that night. Well, just the period of the phone call, 9:32. Like, remember what they did to Raoul because of that phone call to the IT tech? That he didn't answer. He called him at 11:30 at night. He didn't answer, and they ripped the two boys apart. Why do people think that detective? Do people think that that's this German prosecutor as well is coming out saying he's 100% convinced? Like, usually a prosecutor in most cases is very unlikely to go to 100% on anything. He's like, no, 100% he did it. Thought the clothes and curtains. I don't think anything was washed, Anna. Yeah, it is. There was someone actually talking to me. Like, I like the guys. I watched their stuff, but guys, don't be believing. I know for a fact there's some things on that as total nonsense. Like, someone was leaving me comments about the Ian Bailey one last night. Like, they got that wrong. Just loads of things they got inside that wrong. I've been watching. Not that I'm an expert or anything, but anyone who's in that case is been watching Ian's behaviour for the last 20, 25 years. Do you know, you'd have some bit of an idea if you're watching that rather than 2 interviews. And a lot of that stuff, I don't know. I do think people get too caught up in it. I seen another guy's name, someone mentioned it earlier, where he's hours and hours have gone into the McCann case and the body language experts. Again, what's that going to do in court? Nothing. But I know I'm contradicting myself here a lot, but I do find it hard to get past them. But there's no other evidence. You have to look into other stuff. It's just Eddie. If someone can give me a good excuse for Eddie alerting on the clothes, I could probably get over the car if the clothes or the bear or the teddy bear was in the car. But this is a dog who doesn't make mistakes. At least before and after this, anyway. No false alerts. So this is the full report that Martin did. I'm not gonna read out through it. Bore the life out of you. But I'd suggest anyone who's into this case and hasn't read this, just give it a read. So he talks about the apartments, like they went into 5A, they went into B, 5D, H, nothing. Oh, there's 10 vehicles. That's pretty damning, like. But again, the Portuguese could find absolutely nothing to back any of this up. 35 years experience at the time in training dogs within the police. Special advisor to the FBI, still is doing a lot of that stuff. He's legit. You couldn't have gotten you couldn't have gotten someone better. You couldn't have gotten two better dogs kind of over there to do this. And again, this wasn't the Portuguese. This was the British. The British were like, "We have this. Do you want to use this?" I think at the start I said no. And was it 18? I think it was around 18 days later. So look how busy he was for the week. He was searching beaches and all. I'm going to link that in there for you. Do you think most people are... Well, I'll try and poll there. I just want to know where people... I'm stuck in the middle of this case a long time. Like I said at the start, I thought she was taken. When all this stuff came out, I was like, Jesus, there's... Like the police came out, told us initially from the first report, we have our blood, we have our DNA. No, you didn't. So I was convinced they were involved. I was like, they have to be. I don't buy... I know, Sarah, I'm the kind of same as you with being left in a buggy outside the shop when I was younger. But everyone at the time, like mother, aunts, all that, there's no way they would leave small children like that alone in an apartment on a holiday in a country that you don't know. It's different down your local town or village. Not anymore, but... But there is... So I was fully on board, not fully on board, but I was like, they definitely... Why are the dogs alerting? I remember looking into the dogs, being like, who are these dogs? Are these Portuguese dogs? And you're like, oh my God, they're not. They're legit. And their behaviour probably the last 10 years as well. They're just... They didn't shy away. Like, if you were involved, you wouldn't want attention like this. You wouldn't be coming out every year, going on the news, pleading, begging. So that kind of pushed me away from it a small bit. And then with this guy, I'm like smack bang now, and I'm probably smack bang in the middle. I can't get over the dogs. I'd love to be able to get over the dogs. So if anyone can take it down. I searched through Michelle's videos as well, looking for... I searched them before, because I was like, Michelle, definitely. I know she loves her dog. She definitely would have covered in this. I'd love to know her take. And she didn't have any. I feel like there's a strong opinion there. And look, if the dogs are wrong in this, it might be lessons for other cases. I can't see them being wrong though, guys. I think it's if they're after picking something up, was a transfer there from something, from anything, any object there that Madeline and Gerry had that would have been in the hospital, anyone in the apartment between when Maddie went missing and the 18 days when the dog, which doesn't make sense because it's behind the couch and in a bedroom. Can't say he was having a bad day because he alerted on multiple days to multiple different things. Yeah. I remember being left outside the shop, like even when I was like, I don't know, 4 or 5, being left outside the shop with a buggy or a pram from someone who's won So it's just too small to just stay over here and mind the shopping. We're going in there for a look. The Eddie is a cadaver dog, Moonlight. He'd only alert on human cadaver. Very strong alerts before, 100% success rate before and afterwards. I'll see if I can find one of the articles actually on him, guys, because it was good. God, I didn't even know this one. Oh my God, he actually has the case examples in here as well. I didn't even realise it was on that page. A missing person last seen returning from church on foot in Northern Ireland. The search of the suspect's burnt out vehicle by forensic scientist did not reveal any evidence. A search by the EVRD, presume that's the dogs, is it? Identified a position in the rear passenger foot where the dog alerted to the presence of human material. A sample was taken when analysed revealed the victim's DNA. An inquiry then concentrated its effort on the suspect, and the dog located the body of the woman on a riverbank. That's brilliant. Like, that's amazing. Isn't it? Like, I assume that was probably this article. Eddie the hero sniffer dog who helped jail one of Northern Ireland's most notorious murders. I'm just talking about being featured in the Madeline McCann documentary. The Springer Spaniel was instrumental in snaring evil killer Trevor Hamilton, who kidnapped and murdered 65-year-old County Tyrone woman as she returned from mass to her home in Donegal in 2003. That was the case. I was just reading out there. Like, they are legit. It's just, I'd love for someone here to be like, no, this is why they alerted. If the main thing, Moonlight, if you don't know about this case, it was the lead detective on the Portuguese was an absolute weasel. He messed up cases beforehand, messed up cases. He was gone after that. He was an Arguido in a case himself at the time. He was lead investigator in this case. Wrote a book that the McCanns sued him for. And I think the main theory there is they gave her something to help her sleep, maybe too much. Was that what Kate was? I think she was an anaesthetic nurse or a doctor. There was people were talking about Kate's behaviour in the apartment afterwards when everyone was coming in searching. So you can imagine how the absolute panic. Madeline's gone. There's dozens of people running out of the apartment, screaming, all the commotion that night. The two twins never woke up. And they were saying Kate was checking their breathing a lot. And they were like, were they sedated also? Is that why they didn't wake up? A lot of people go back to what you said there with the people early on with the plane. Which I don't believe, because if you're just after accidentally killing one of your children by giving them something to help them sleep, you're not going to do it again. I'd love Jenny to hear. I'd love to get Michelle's take on this, because she knows more about these dogs than I ever will. Like, did you see before, guys? One of I can't remember, but Michelle just touched on it in one of her videos, and like she has one of hers is a Springer. It's Cassie. I'm still done. But when she was younger, her sister used to be down playing in the woods, and she had a dog trained on her scent. So if she went looking for her, she'd go out with the dog, and the dog would lead her down. And brilliant, like. But go through that scenario, guys. If talk me through it. They're after sedating Maddie. Or I actually don't even think they like Maddie. I think that we just started calling her that. Or was it Raoul was the first person to give him the name? So it's probably a bit disrespectful from McCann's to be calling her Maddie. I don't know. I could be wrong on that. But say they leave him there, they sedate him. There's other people we know going into that apartment. So it just happened that it was Kate and Gerry who were checking on her at the time that they found her dead. Or people are going to say, oh, she was dead earlier than that. So what are they going to do? Just put a pillow under the blanket and hope that the other people going checking that the kids don't notice? But say it was. Say Gerry goes back, goes to checking the kids. I don't think would you go over and checking their breathing if you're checking in like that? I don't believe they every 20 minutes. I don't believe that they were checking on them every 20 minutes. I'd say it was probably closer to 40 minutes. So Gerry goes back, goes up, checks the breathing. Maddie's not breathing. Well, it must have been Kate, really, I suppose, if the scent is on her clothes, but it's on there an hour and a half. It just... Like, can someone... The people who believe this firmly, can you give me a scenario where Kate goes back? Or did it happen beforehand? Are you saying that everyone else is involved with it as well that was over there? Like, we know, is it Jane Tanner? I think that's her name. Jane was the one who spotted the guy leaving with the child asleep with the pink pajamas. Like, I do struggle to see how this scenario will play out. Kate goes back, finds her dead, clutches her to her chest, I assume, says that the scent is all over the clothes. Then she's like, oh no, what am I going to do? I need to cover this up. She somehow is able to stash a body where nobody will find it and then get back down to the table in time for her dessert. I don't know. Like, does anyone have any literal scenario other than, like, myself saying that I find it hard to get past the dogs, but there doesn't seem to be much else. They are. Gerry's a brain surgeon, isn't it? And Kate's anaesthetic, I think. I just want to check that before I throw that in Kate. I know Gerry is a brain surgeon. Oh, guys, I didn't even know that. She actually returned to work a few years back, Kate. I thought she gave up. She's a GP. Kate's a GP. And Gerry is a cardiologist. I had both their jobs wrong there. So I realised there I'm not showing you what I'm looking at. So they're back at the hospital in Leicester. Last 7 years, however, Kate has now thrown herself back into her former job, joining Gerry in the front lines at the Emojis. Was this? What date is on this? This is only September 2021. I wonder, was that on the back of maybe COVID? She's helping out local hospitals, but like a GP wouldn't be helping out local hospitals now, not doing any surgery work. Yeah, such a demand for qualified medics during unprecedented times. The keys, they alerted on the car keys as well, Anna. They hit it on, yeah, the driver's the driver's door. The driver's door. But what I was saying earlier, that's the one that I probably could get over, because we know they alerted on the teddy bear and on the clothes. If that teddy bear is in that car, a bit moist, maybe from Kate's tears. She was crying and holding the teddy bear. We've seen that. And I wonder if the scent was already on that. Like, would it just kind of filter into the car? But I can't make an excuse for the other ones, because I don't know if anyone does. If anyone can give me an example of really qualified dogs making mistakes like this in the past, I'd love to see it. That's rubbish, Jenny. That's rubbish. You're getting carried away there now with some of these YouTube videos that go down now. Like, people are willing to believe that before they're willing to believe that a paedophile who was in the area had anything to do with it. They're like, no, it's the Freemasons. Or she was gone over to be sold, or though what I was saying earlier on, I seen another video before about linking it back to Epstein. Cornbread Mafia. That's who it is, Jana. They get around, don't they? No, he wouldn't have in the car at all. He had his own van, and this is the van that he was driving at the time, which they went looking for a similar van. They didn't know him at the time. Didn't know any of that. And he had another car that he re-registered the next day. But I linked that where am I? On 135. I'm dragging on here now small. But I'll link this down below anyway, guys. Wait there, no, I'll do it now. But if anyone's catching this on a replay, or anyone have any reason to take down the dogs, or can tell me why they were wrong, why they made a mistake, I'd love to know. I really would. Because this guy does look dodgy. Very interested to know as well. Like, with Hans Christian saying this, they have enough evidence to bring a charge. Like, you still need a lot for that, lads. Like, what I have here isn't enough at all. It's obviously stuff that they don't know, but like, you can't be like, oh, you were in the area at the time, we're going to charge you. They must have something else on him. But again, the case probably is going to need to be so strong, because whoever is the defence attorney there, the first thing you're going to do is point finger at McCann's. And if you can just get that reasonable doubt, I don't know about jury trials in Portugal. I need to check that out. But if you can get any bit of reasonable doubt inside there, you're not going to get a conviction. I think so, and I think that's what they're linking, Charmaine, that phone call back to. Where is it? Yeah. So mobile phone records show he received a 30-minute phone call while in the town that lasted from 7:32 to 8:02. So he was on the phone for half an hour beforehand. What was that call about? Was he watching the apartment by then? Being like, here, do you want a little girl? Or how much can you get me for a little girl? Was it a case of giving directions? Don't know. But there's definitely something in that call, I imagine. And the next day, re-registering a car in an acquaintance's name. Why? The very next day. That's a fact. That's a fact, Jenny. I'd say. I would. Why would they kill her? Do you think, Moonlight? There was no. Like, her DNA is going to be all over that apartment. Why wouldn't it? She's living there or staying there, so her DNA is going to be everywhere. But this idea that, like, I know one of the dogs alerted for blood, but they're going to alert to any human blood at all. And no testing on anything in the apartment showed Madeline's blood. There was no blood. There was no blood in the apartment. A dog alerted to blood. This dog will alert to any... Guys, this is no joke. The first... I think it was the Canaries. The very first holiday I went on with my friends, I don't know, it was like 17, 18, you're just finished school. We went up to her apartment. Now, obviously, I'm staying in a lot different apartment than Kate and Gerry. But I went into the apartment and there was blood smeared all over the wall. Because I was like, what is going on here? This is just arriving, goes in with the bags, blood all over the walls. The safety deposit box door was like ripped off and thrown, or the safety deposit box itself was like ripped out of the thing. Went down to reception, we were like, here, what? Could we get a different apartment? There was blood all over the wall. Do you know what they did? They came up and painted over the blood. That was it. And we didn't care, we just stayed there drinking for 2 weeks. Yeah. Yeah, Moonlight, yeah. Sorry, I'm just on edge there over over some of the people telling me it's Maddie's blood. But what about cadaver? So we could make an excuse for the blood. Could make an excuse for it's he's the main one really, in it, because like Eddie has done so much before that and so much after that. Like, you could take down Keela and be like, you're going to alert any blood at all. It's an apartment block. It's obviously going to be blood inside her at some stage. You would have to imagine. But why is Eddie alerting? Someone killed in the apartment before that we don't know about? Doubt it. It's a cadaver scent. It's only going to come from human decomposition. Kate and Gerry cross-contamination from item of clothing that they were wearing in a hospital or something before they left. Seems unlikely. And I think if that was the case, they'd at least try to say that, make that excuse. They've never tried to address the dogs. The only thing that I've heard them say is ask the dogs. If someone came around and told me, here, look, this Eddie dog is dodgy. I know Google says he's good, but there's this example of him messing up. I'd be like, okay, that's interesting, but I can't find anything negative on him. No, Keela will alert to blood and Eddie will alert to cadaver scent. One will bark, one will just kind of freeze. They won't. It's only human. It won't be dead animals. Moonlight. It would just be human cadaver. Yeah, sure. I don't think so in this case because Martin Grime. If you look him up, he's the. If you were to pick one person in the world, you're going to pick him. And I don't know if you caught it earlier on, but a really good example of mishandling was the dogs in the Chris Watts case. When they were behind his house, I think Chris threw something into a skip. And the dog was looking to go across the road, kind of alerting there was a little fence in the way that you could get around easily. And the handler directed him away from it, away from his natural instinct. They will. They'll take it. It's like the example with Eddie. I think he's alerted on. I don't know, is it an example actually, or was he just saying it? But you bury a body, you dig up that body, you move it somewhere else. The initial hole where that body was buried, he'd pick it up 20 years later. And they do. The only thing with him, he hasn't made mistakes, and before or after this, and if he was, it's multiple mistakes over multiple days. 10 mistakes. Is that likely? To go on a complete rampage of mistakes for a few days and never do them before and never do them after? I don't think he's making a mistake, but I am open to any other explanation for how a cadaver scent got on the apartment or got on Kate's clothes. Gerry Halliwell or Gerry? There's not. There's a lot of things as well in this, Jenny. Like, don't take anything. I can tell some of the rabbit holes you were down, but don't take anything have face value, including anything I say. Just because you read it on YouTube doesn't mean it's true. Like what's the scenario? So Gerry's in the Freemasons and he sold his daughter to a paedophile ring or something. I don't know. And then went on the biggest cover up that you could imagine for the next 20 years. I can't see how they had time to move her either. That's why I think Charmaine with the alert on the car, I could make an excuse for that, because the clothes or the teddy bear would have been in the car. The heat over there, we know how sensitive he is to that smell. So if that's traveling around the car, that's why he could alert on that. It's 25 days later they rented that. So, like, if people think that's what happened, they think so that Madeline died in an accident. Parents played a blinder and covering her up initially and were back down for dinner, or happened beforehand and neighbours didn't check. I don't know. Stashed her body somewhere. It must have been just thrown in it. Must have just been put in a ditch or somewhere. They wouldn't probably no time to bury it. And then suddenly, one of if not the biggest missing persons investigation, where hundreds of journalists are there or camped outside her house. You're saying 2-3 weeks later, more than 3, nearly 4, that they rented a car, went back, got the body, put it into the car. No one saw him. Moved it somewhere else. Or what's the theory that some people go, oh, he rented a boat and went out and put it out. I wouldn't see. Just find all that very hard to believe. And it didn't alert on any of Gerry, his clothes. The dog only alerted on 2 of Kate's, pants and a top. They could, Apple, yeah. Like, we've been told that there was no record of that, but we don't know if that's true. And it could be as simple as that. But then you have the clothes. See, you've Kate's clothes as well. And the fact that it's kind of 2 spots in the apartment, even though the one in the bedroom, you could probably say, oh, look, if all the clothes were there. Who made him look guilty, Juju? Kate? What? I think so, Gaelic, yeah. And especially, like, Gerry was very focused. You see, even some of the interviews, he'll be bringing in maps of the area and trying to plead with people. Was it on the 1-year anniversary when he done that morning show over, and he was doing that? He was like, if you were anywhere here last year, please go back, please check your photographs, go through anything. He's always going into these with a plan and an agenda and what he wants out of it. And they were actually told that as well, not to show emotion. And you could see at the start, Kate, like, had it. She was full of it. And especially after she was taken in for the interview, she was just broken after that. Yeah. That does look... I swing between both, and I could change my mind depending on what things I find out. But it's looking more and more like that. I would think as well they'd be looking to try and take down the dogs if they go to trial, because they'll know this is coming. So you're going to try and rebuke that or try and explain it anyway. Just explain it. Be like, "Here, look, this is what happened in that apartment before." Or the clothes. Like, could it be as simple as some sort of cross-contamination from their jobs? But yeah. They also had to start on the defence explaining leaving 3 children unsupervised and then even being too lazy to deal with the keys. Yeah, good night, Jenny. That's what people just get completely... It's the same in Delphi. I get more stuff again yesterday on Kelsey. Like, oh my God. It is. It's just so sad. I'm going to... Did I link that to you guys? I didn't. I'm just going to link that in there and I'll try to update it. Why haven't we heard anyone talk about that? Like, if it is, and I think it could be as well, but Gerry and Kate never tried to explain it. No one ever came on and tried to explain it in the 10, 15 years that it's there. Nobody has tried to... People struggle to get past the dogs or to try and take them down. Must be possible. I'd love to see some sort of testing done. If they haven't done that stuff already, you'd imagine they have. And I imagine probably Martin probably did something like that as well, but some sort of... I don't know, take an item of clothing that was in contact with a cadaver, put it in the washing machine without the clothes, see do they pick it up. Would that happen? If he can pick up a hole that a body was buried in 20 years after it was removed from that hole, I'd imagine maybe so. And guys, if it is the case of some sort of cross contamination, how unlucky is that? That your baby girl is missing, taken, gone, and all of a sudden you have dogs alerting on in your apartment, on your clothes, in your car, on your keys, on her teddy bear. It seems a bit too much. It does. Yeah, I'm sure we would have too. But Charmaine, if this does proceed with Christian, is that his name? It is Christian. Yeah. I think they're going to have to address it. They're going to have to try and get ahead of it, or because obviously that is going to come up straight away in court. So you're going to have to talk about that. I know Martin doesn't comment on it. He just I'll just throw that in there again before I go. He doesn't comment on it. He just refers everyone back to the report, and he's been told as well not to comment on it. But yeah, I'm going to link that back in there. If I add this link, will work like going forward. So anything on this or anything Maddie related, I'll just add new slides to that. Might add in someone the dogs as well, or any examples that I can find. And that's it. Anyone digging into this as well after this, the next few days, anything interesting, drop me an email, will you? Yeah. The way the McCanns were treated by the media, they will be wary of speaking to the press. They have 2 other children to deal with who have all sorts of issues after losing their sister. I can only imagine. Did you see some of the hate mail that they get as well, Moonlight? It's awful. Awful. It's one thing to have an opinion. It's another thing to be blasting it out on Twitter, but then to be going and sending letters and postcards like that to the family's house. Just sick. I don't think so. He's going to be in prison for the rest of his life anyway. And going off, did you see the quote? He's already after coming out giving 1 or 2 quotes saying that he's absolutely nothing got to do with it. So I doubt it. Oh, hi, Kerry. I didn't even see you. You were here all along. But yeah, I'll leave that link there if anyone does come across anything interesting, anything about Christian that I don't have in there that I can add in, or anything that can dispute the dogs. I'd love to know about it. I'll play my Navi piano before I finish up. I think Carrie as well. I gave you a wrench. I didn't even tell you about it. I just know you from the other chats, and I should have probably let you know about that. Oh, you're a great piece of stuff. I'm gonna go because I don't want this to drag. Oh, if I end it in the next 10 seconds, it stays under 2 hours. So I definitely am. But thanks for keeping me company. Anything at all, drop me an email. Good luck. God bless. Have a good night.